merencanakan maupun menginisiasi waktu itu di Monas. Dan juga Tech Pro atau barrier yang kita beli itu kan sesuai dengan area di Monas waktu itu. Tapi menurut saya sangat sayang ya, karena lanjutkan saja menurut saya di Ancol sampai 3 musim selesai, baru kita pikirkan nextnya akan seperti apa.
Karena sudah dibikin spesial ya.
Betul, dan homologasi pernah dilakukan dan itu membutuhkan effort dan biaya yang cukup tinggi ya. Mungkin sekali desain lagi sirkuit itu mungkin bisa 1 juta US dollar.
Wow.
Dan itu mahal. Kalau redesign lagi di Monas mungkin juga perlu biaya lagi dan juga homologasi lagi.
Ya, dan sambil sama-sama kita lihat, ini adalah kalender Formula E di 2023, di mana Jakarta E-prix ini merupakan kalender yang ke-10 dan juga 11 besok untuk musim ke-9 ini, artinya di mana ini sudah melewati setengah musim balapan Formula E. Nah, membicarakan mengenai musim balapan ini sendiri, di musim ini sejauh Formula E datang ke seri ke-10 ini seperti apa menurut Anda?
Ya, kita kan tahu bahwa banyak regulasi baru ya, Fen ya. Regulasi baru ini mengubah semua. Di awal-awal musim itu menjadi cukup kuat. Nah, ini kita lihat mobilnya McLaren yang kita lihat sekarang ini. Nah, balik lagi tadi bahwa mesin Porsche di awal-awal cukup kuat, tapi akhir-akhir ini Jaguar cukup mengimbangi. Dan bahkan sekarang pemimpin klasmen sekarang ini adalah saya nyebutnya silent killer ya, ini Cassidy itu. Nah, ini mobilnya Envision, ini Cassidy. Nah, balik lagi tadi terhadap mesin-mesin Envision ini, sebenarnya powertrainnya dari Jaguar, tapi bukan tim pabrikan Jaguar. Tim pabrikan Jaguar adalah pemenang tahun lalu. Nah, ini kita lihat tim Jaguar, Mitch Evans dan Sam Bird pebalapnya. Mitch Evans adalah juara musim lalu. Evans sendiri sebenarnya pada saat start dia ada di posisi ketiga. Jakarta E-prix atau sirkuit di Indonesia di Jakarta di Ancol ini, Jakarta Internasional E-prix sirkuit ini sebenarnya tidak memerlukan energi yang banyak, sangat tidak memerlukan energi banyak dibandingkan dengan beberapa sirkuit lain.
Oh ya?
Oleh karena itu, kenapa nanti pada saat balapan kita ada yang namanya attack mode itu ditambah.
Sebentar, sambil kita sama-sama lihat, ini adalah sirkuit yang nanti akan dilakukan kualifikasi dan juga balapan. Tapi agak sedikit berbeda dari apa yang saya bayangkan dengan yang dikatakan oleh Bung Wahab. Anda mengatakan bahwa di sini tidak diperlukan energi yang banyak, tetapi attack mode ditambah. Bukannya ini jadi kontradiksi, Bung Wahab? Kenapa harus ditambahkan attack mode kalau kita tidak memerlukan energi yang banyak di sini? Karena
power di unit itu kan terbatas. Jadi paling enggak mereka bisa memanfaatkan kelebihan dari overpower kapasitas itu menjadi tambahan attack mode. Di samping itu, kalau mereka bisa memanfaatkan tanpa attack mode, itu sebenarnya balapan jadi tidak menarik. Dengan adanya attack mode, apakah menentukan atau merugi tergantung situasi. Tetapi saya melihat ada di beberapa balapan attack mode itu justru merugikan.
Kenapa Anda mengatakan seperti itu?
Karena tanpa mengambil attack mode, contohnya seperti Monaco kemarin, sebenarnya pembalap bisa saja memenangkan balapan tanpa ngambil attack mode, energinya juga masih berlebih. Monaco dengan Jakarta kan kurang lebih sama, energi yang digunakan tidak terlalu banyak, sementara kapasitas baterai masih cukup banyak, sehingga dengan digunakan attack mode itu kan berarti kehilangan kan, karena dia harus ngambil attack mode, dia kehilangan posisi dengan belakangnya karena jaraknya cukup rapat, sehingga attack mode itu kadang malah mengganggu. Nah, itulah perang strategi diperlukan pada saat balapan nanti ya.
Itu dia kenapa juga attack mode sendiri juga bisa dilakukan pemilihan beberapa yang berbeda, di mana pada seri di Jakarta ini sendiri attack mode bisa diambil 6+2 atau 3+3 atau sebaliknya 2+6.
Double dari biasanya. Betul. Ini
memang agak sedikit berbeda sih, tapi kalau tadi kita sudah melihat juga seperti apa sirkuit Ancol yang akan digunakan sebentar lagi dalam kualifikasi, seperti yang Anda lihat di layar kaca, banyak sirkuit lurusnya, banyak trek lurusnya, dan ini merupakan sirkuit dengan karakteristik yang cepat, atau seperti apa sih secara detail karakteristik di sirkuit Ancol ini sendiri? Ya,
trek lurusnya tidak terlalu panjang ya, Fen ya. Seperti kita lihat hanya ada 2 tempat untuk overtaking yang paling memungkinkan atau paling visible di tikungan 1 dan tikungan 7. Tikungan kalau mau nekat-nekat dikit di tikungan 13 mungkin bisa, karena saya selalu bilang yang namanya hairpin, kalau ini hairpinnya tidak benar-benar terlalu hairpin, tapi tikungan U, itu biasa magic overtaking itu terjadi. Nah seperti itu yang terjadi biasanya, makanya menurut saya kembali double dari biasanya attack mode itu akan membuat balapan nanti menjadi menurut saya lebih menarik, karena gimmick kan itu sebenarnya. Baik. Kalau enggak perang power biasa aja mereka sebenarnya masih cukup kok, nggak usah pakai gimmick-gimmickan gitu loh. Tapi balapan jadi nggak menarik nanti.
Baiklah kalau begitu saat ini sudah berjalan kualifikasi untuk seri ke-10 langsung dari Jakarta E-prix. Kalau begitu langsung saja kita mengucapkan selamat menyaksikan.
At least one flying lap within the first 6 minutes. The clock ticking away through this whole 12-minute Group A section. It goes faster than you think sometimes, I have to say. And we've got a few more cars actually coming out on track right now.
Yeah, interestingly, both the DS Penske cars are still in the pit, so they are choosing to just wait and let the others go and clean up the track a little bit, which is an interesting tactic. But as we said before, you know, the tires come in straight away on the first or second lap, so they don't need to go pounding round and round like we saw them doing in places like Diriyah, for example, where it was extremely cold with that night qualifying.
Well, let's keep an eye on Jake Hughes, the man who started from pole position last time out in Monaco. He wasn't actually the fastest setter of a time in the final, but he has been doing a great job in qualifying. It's his second pole position of the year. So let's see whether Jake Hughes can put together a good lap. It's going to give us... Oh, he gets it a bit out of shape.
Yeah, it seemed like he just locked up the rears at that final phase there, because the initial part of braking seemed okay, but just in that last phase as he was turning into the apex, the rear stepped out of line, so he would have dumped a load of lap time there. But, you know, he'll regroup, he'll get another chance. I think that's the benefit, as he's locked up completely into that. So, yeah, this lap is fully done and dusted for Jake Hughes.
Yeah, but as you say, he's learning from it at the same time, so we shall see how it works. So Jake Hughes, who's had these good qualifying positions this year, 2 pole positions, but hasn't had a podium yet, hasn't always quite worked out for him in the race. It does seem as though the McLaren with the Nissan powertrain can be quick in qualifying, sometimes misses out a little bit in the race. So he sets an initial time of 1:11.1. That is some way off what we were seeing earlier in free practice. We saw a 1:08.3 from Max Günther in second practice. He had also set the pace in first practice as well. So we're going to see quicker times, I'm sure.
Yeah, the session is going to get quicker and quicker, but what we have to keep in mind is in this part of qualifying, they're only using the 300 kilowatt power mode, and that those times for free practice will be similar to what we see when we get to the dual stages, when they use the higher power mode of 350 kilowatts.
Yeah, that's a good point. They're not allowed to use that higher power mode until we get into the duels. So Jake Dennis here in the Avalanche Andretti, one of the championship contenders, currently sitting at third in the championship at the moment. Let's just see how this comes across the line for him. It is, yep, it's a good lap time, 1:09.2. So now we're into the 1 minute 9s. That's more like it. Sam Bird was going well earlier. He goes second fastest to Jake Dennis.
That's a strong lap from Jake Dennis. 4 tenths clear of Sam Bird. Sasha Fenestraz pops into 4th place, and Nick Cassidy, the championship leader, now into 2nd, which is encouraging for Nick. He didn't have a great run at free practice. He was outside the top 10, as was his teammate that we were seeing there, Sebastian Buemi. Both Envision cars didn't have a great run this morning, so that'll be a bit of optimism in that team now.
P1 by 4.5 tenths so far to Bird.
We've got some weird, like, knocking on the right front suspension.
Saying he's got some weird knocking on the right front suspension. Let's hope that's not a major problem. We're waiting for Van Dorn and Verne to set a lap time.
So far this season, the DS Penske teams have complained about not being able to get the tyres into the right window when there's cooler conditions. Well, they haven't got cooler conditions today, and the track temperature, Ben, has risen since free practice. So I wonder if this is going to suit these two guys. Van Dorn, fastest of anybody in the first sector. Verne a little bit down, 10.5 slower than the Belgian.
It's a weekend of celebration for this team, even though both cars are in the same group here in qualifying. The 100th race for DS Automotive, who provide the powertrain, and 2 drivers' titles, 2 teams' titles in the history of Formula E. So they're celebrating that. You can see it on the livery of the cars. But right now, it's about lap time.
That's right. Van Dorn fastest of anyone in the second sector as well, and Jean-Eric Verne somewhere behind him, has to be said, about half a second behind at this stage. Van Dorn has got a car ahead of him, but that shouldn't be a problem. He's far enough ahead, and we'll see as he comes up to the line. He does go to the top of the times. Lost a little bit to Jake Dennis in the last sector, though.
So that's not, it's a good start. Listen, Jean-Eric Fern, yeah, not having such a good time at the moment. Robin Fry's coming across the line 5th. Roberto Merri, who's making his debut in Formula E this weekend, down in 11th place at the moment. He's been saying there's a little bit of a problem with rear lockups going on with his car, so that's something that the team will have to try and approach as well. We're watching Sam Bird right now. He's currently in 4th position. Remember, it's all about the top 4. When we get into the final couple of minutes of this Group A qualifying, it's who's going to be in the top 4, because you get into the duels, as that graphic shows you, if you're in the top 4. If you're not, then that's qualifying over. Oh.
Whoa, that was close to the wall, wasn't it? He's up to the line, and he's lost time in the last sector with that slide out of the final corner. So there's an interesting decision to be made now by all these drivers. Do they come into the pits and put on another set of tyres? They only get two sets of tyres for the entire day's running. But if they put another set on, they'll be cool. These tyres they've got on their cars now have done 4 laps already, and therefore it's you know, they're going to be probably 40-50 degrees hotter than the ones that are sitting in the pits.
Well, we are hearing some drivers are coming in to change tyres, there's no doubt.
Yeah, Van Dorn, Dennis, Fern, Frines, Merri already in the pits. Sam Bird, this is the slide I think we're going to see out of the final corner, turn 18. Just lots of understeer on the way in, and then when he picked up the power that was on the dirt, he touched the wall, Ben. Yeah,
I wondered if he had actually. When we saw the onboard, I wasn't sure. Let's have another look from the onboard view.
Yeah, look, chasing the understeer. Then when he picks the power up, the understeers put him offline, and the left-hand tyres are on the dirt. So when he started to accelerate, he just didn't have the grip that he would have expected there.
So Stoffel Van Dorn, who's had a bit of a tough season, even though he's reigning champion, won the title last year, the 31-year-old Belgian with so much experience in the top levels of motorsport, but he has had a bit of a tough time. He has had one very good qualifying, that was in Sao Paulo, where he was on pole, but apart from that, it's been a little bit difficult for him. He's only been in 3 duels so far this year, but right now Van Dorn is in a very good position.
So Hughes has chosen to abort the lap, and this is tricky. Look, there's a traffic jam here in the pit lane as somebody's coming off the weighbridge. So Hughes aborted that final lap, despite the fact that he didn't really do a proper lap first time round. The lap he aborted was good, would have been good enough to get into 3rd place. So there is pace in that McLaren. We've seen, as you said before in qualifying, he's just got to close the lap out now.
Sam Bird's pretty happy with his car apparently, but he's down in 5th place now, so he's going to have to find a little bit more pace as this session continues, and we are beginning to ramp up now with under 3.5 minutes to go. Tyres being changed.
Yeah, so the fresher, cooler tyres going on to Sam Bird's car, and similarly down at McLaren, lots of activity around Jake Hughes. They've got 3 minutes to go, so they're leading themselves just a couple of laps here, aren't they? You know, maybe some drivers feel they could do it straight away on lap 1. Others thinking they might need to do a build lap, which is essentially a lap at about 80% to just try and get the temperatures even between the front and the rear of the car.
So here we are watching Roberto Merri, who's making his debut, the Spaniard, 32 years old. His debut in Formula E, but lots of experience in single-seater racing over the years, but this is so different, driving in Formula E with the electrical power, with the regeneration. When you get onto the brakes, it's not hydraulic brakes most of the time on the front, it's the powertrain in the front of the car that's generating the power back into the battery, generating that energy. Let's keep an eye on Merri and see how he's getting on here, obviously trying to learn it all on a street track as well, never easy.
Yeah, it's a real challenge in Formula E because they are so different. You know, I know I'm saying the obvious by saying that obviously it's an electric car, but it is vastly different just in terms of how the driving experience is behind the wheel. All of the things you mentioned, Ben, completely valid, and it makes it, I think, in terms of being able to adapt, one of the hardest categories to just get in and get on with it.
Well, here he is. He's kept it together, but you can see there's a lot of movement going on. He goes 10th fastest, so he goes one up from that lower position. But I think he's still taking a lot on board, because you've got to try and keep it as smooth as possible. It wasn't the smoothest run by any means there, and he's still trying to absorb it all. But he's got 2 races this weekend. He'll have another qualifying session tomorrow for round 11, so there's plenty of opportunity to try and absorb more information. Now we're getting into the key phase of Group A. As you can see, a lot of the cars are out on track now as the clock is ticking away, and they all want to get that final lap in. We could see a complete change in the order as to who's going to get into the duels. Right now it's Van Dorn from Dennis, Nick Cassidy, the championship leader, in 3rd place, and Sacha Fenestres, who's qualified well actually on several occasions, again in Monaco last time out, he was right up there. Let's see whether he's going to stay in the top 4, or is Sam Bird going to get in there, for example.
Okay, we're good on time. We're good on time.
Right, so they're all aiming for 1 lap here, aren't they? You know, there's less than a minute on the clock, and so therefore they've all put themselves in this position where they're going to get 1 shot at getting into the duels.
Yeah, pressure on. This is where the adrenaline's picking up for the drivers. Nick Cassidy's already onto his lap in the green. Envision just going through down into turn 1. Stoffel Van Dorn and Jean-Eric Verne in the 2 DS Penske's. A little bit of a slip and a slide from Jake Dennis, but this could be a very quick lap for Jake Dennis in the Andretti.
Very strong first sector there, Ben.
Yeah.
Nearly 2 tenths up on Van Dorn's time, but I think we're going to see improvements up and down the field. As long as the drivers don't make mistakes, this is where they're really earning their money, because, as you say, the pressure's on, and when we get to this stage, it's kind of like a duel, except you're competing against 10 others, basically. You know, it's 1 lap, 1 shot at getting it right. Tictum goes 3rd, so Tictum now into the top 4.
But we are going to see a lot of changes in this next few moments as the checkered flag is out. It's all about the lap that everybody is on right now. Jake Dennis is on a very good lap, as you say. Tictum had done an excellent middle sector. We're only just beginning to see drivers come through that middle sector, so Jake Dennis goes over the line and goes fastest. So it's looking as though he's going to be in the duels unless we see massive changes. Nick Cassidy 3rd, bit more risky in 3rd place, 2 tenths down. Van Dorn improves, stays 2nd, doesn't actually, and then Verne jumps up. So both DS Penske's at the moment in the top 4. Will they stay there? Are they going to be pushed down? Robin Fryns.
Wow.
Great lap by Robin Fryns, and that's pushed Cassidy out of the duels. So the championship leader has been pushed down to 5th place, and Robin Fryns, my goodness, where's he got that from?
And Sam Bird only down in 8th. He's going to start on the 8th row of the grid, which is a massive disappointment for the Jaguar team.
Ya, baru saja kita menyaksikan persaingan, dan tentu saja belum usai persaingan ini karena akan dilanjutkan ke grup berikutnya, di mana tadi kita sudah melihat Jack Dennis ternyata berada di urutan pertama, kemudian Van Dorn dan juga Jeff alias Jean-Eric Verne, dan kemudian Fryns. Nanti kita akan kembali lagi untuk menyaksikan persaingan di kualifikasi. Pastikan Anda tetap bersama kami di iNews Sport.
Didn't quite do the job you would have liked to in the cockpit, but it'll be okay. I mean, that's okay for Cassidy. Obviously, having Dennis up at the front is slightly ominous, but we'll see how the duels unfold for Dennis.
Absolutely right, yeah. But Robin Fryns, great effort by...
Ya, kembali lagi bersama kami masih dalam rangkaian Jakarta E-prix yang merupakan musim ke-9 dalam seri ke-10 untuk di musim ini. Dan jika Anda baru menyaksikan formulae dan agak sedikit bingung dengan format yang dilakukan pada kualifikasi di formulae, ini memang sedikit berbeda dibandingkan ajang-ajang balap yang biasanya kita saksikan. Dan sambil sama-sama ini kita lihat adalah qualifying group B, karena memang kualifikasi dalam formulae ini dibagi menjadi 2 sesi grup dan juga babak duel yang berbeda. Free practice berjalan 30 menit, sementara kualifikasi yang terdiri dari sesi grup dan juga sesi duel ini berjalan masing-masing adalah 12 menit dari tiap grup. Sebelumnya kita sudah menyaksikan grup yang terdahulu, yaitu grup A, di mana grup A sendiri juga sudah berjalan selama 12 menit tadi, dan pembalap ini dibagi ke 2 grup sesuai dengan ganjil genap posisinya pada klasmen dan ketika mencetak waktu, di mana nantinya 4 pembalap tercepat di masing-masing grup akan lolos ke babak berikutnya, masih dalam rangkaian kualifikasi yang kita sebut sebagai babak duel untuk menentukan posisi tercepatnya. Dan baiklah, sekarang langsung saja kita akan menyaksikan babak kualifikasi di grup B Formulae. Selamat menyaksikan.
The speed suddenly sort of picked up in Group A. Maybe there's a bit more track grip straight away for these guys.
Yeah, there certainly will be. You know, we saw Jake Dennis did a 9-0 in that first group, so we'll have a look and see. That's the benchmark, or the early benchmark for these drivers. But as we saw in that session, Ben, you know, the best times are going to come on the final lap, and it'll be the same this time round. What's interesting to me is only 4 cars have gone out so far, and there's a whole load of others, including these guys here at Maserati, who've been the pace setters, really. Certainly Max Günther has been in both free practice sessions. He's just sitting tight, biding his time. But I would have expected to see Edo Mortara out on track. So for those of you who didn't watch free practice earlier on, Mortara crashed out on the opening lap of his running in free practice, and therefore missed the entire session. So unless the car's not ready yet, I'm somewhat surprised that he's not on track, or he has just left the pit. So yeah, there you go. Car's ready, but I would have wanted to, you know, be out there just getting as much learning as possible if I was him.
Sebastian Buemi on track as well in the other Envision. So we've got some teams that have ended up together. We've got both Maseratis in this group, and interestingly both Porsches. I mean, that's 4 quick cars in itself, isn't it? Pascal Wehrlein in one of the Porsches along with his teammate Da Costa, and then we've got both Maseratis. And as you say, we don't know about Mortara, but he was quick in first practice on Friday, so possibility. But then you've got Buemi in the Envision, he's likely to be quick as well. We did see his teammate just miss out, so can Sebastian Buemi try and throw that away and get the Envision into the duel? The Swiss, who won the title in the past, who's had 13 victories, the most wins in Formula E, tied with Di Grassi in that number. But in terms of qualifying, he does have he has 16 pole positions, the most of anybody in Formula E history. So let's see how this lap's going. Is he going to be able to add to his tally?
It's been pretty neat and tidy, just watching it unfold, no real mistakes, and he's been sort of avoiding the dirty bits and keeping it in all the grippy parts of the track, and it's popped him up with a 9.3. So I think that's a competitive time for a first effort in the session. David Beckman, the other rookie, we saw Roberto Meri in the opening group, and David Beckman replacing Andre Lotre at Avalanche Andretti. Andre is off at Le Mans preparing for the 24-hour race as Beckman goes 3rd at the moment, but I don't think that is going to be enough.
No, I wouldn't have thought so, but he's still learning everything, and maybe there's going to be more opportunity. Now we're watching Antonio Felix da Costa here as he gets the Porsche up to speed and really could do. He's just outside the top 5 in the championship at the moment, dropped a little way away. He's had one victory. He could do with a good weekend if he's going to continue a championship contest, and he's gone 4th fastest, so again a little bit marginal there, just in the dual zone for the moment. New fastest lap by his teammate though, Pascal Wehrlein. Now that's going to encourage Porsche into the 1-minute 8s. So it's a Wehrlein from Mitch Evans, from Sebastian Buemi, and Norman Nato with the Nissan. He's 4th fastest at the moment.
That's a good lap from Evans. You know, I was a little bit concerned after seeing Sam Burt's qualifying in that first group that Jaguar behind the curve a bit as Günther goes 2nd, carrying on that strong form from free practice, less than a 10th off Wehrlein. But yeah, Evans will offer some encouragement to Jaguar.
Yeah, that is definitely good for Jaguar, as you say. Whether they're going to get that car in there or not, we shall wait and see. Pascal Wehrlein, though, going fastest for the moment over Max Günther. And you can scan the Formula E predictor, of course, and get involved and predict who's going to be up there in qualifying. At the end of all this, we will then measure it to see who actually does do it.
Yeah, Edo Mortara down in 10th place, and that, of course, is his first proper timed lap of today. First free practice session being yesterday, so track conditions will be pretty significantly different from when Edo last went for a push lap.
Okay, I've got a front looking understeer. I go BMIC -1.
So So he's trying to make an adjustment on the brake balance there and just move some of the brake power towards the rear of the car. So we'll see. So they're all driving up relatively slowly here to just try and cool the tires down and just bring everything back under control. They would have had one big push lap, everything's sliding around, and they're going to have another go. So here's Evans. He's shooting off down the start finish straight towards the big wide open turn 1, looking down from the helicopter there. Rear of the car squirming around a little bit as we switch to Nico Muller in the apt. I mean, you have to say, Freins being the surprise of Group A, that is a bit of a benchmark here for Nico Muller.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch Nico, see whether he's got the same pace as his teammate has on this stage. So Nico Muller, who did end up on the front row with him in the wet in Berlin in qualifying some while ago this year, but yeah, he's putting together a reasonable lap. But Pascal Wehrlein's done an even better first sector. Günther is on another pretty good lap as well. Let's just see what Nico Muller does then as he comes over the line, whether this improves on his 6th place. He stays in 6th place for now. Da Costa, who is currently down in 7th position. Can he find a little bit more pace on this one? Not sure it's going to be. Oh, yeah, he does find a bit. Okay, so he's up into the top 4, but it's Pascal Wehrlein, his teammate, still quickest at this stage. No difference on that. In fact, it was pretty much the same lap time, wasn't it? I think that he just did. So that's impressive from Wehrlein. But and he's got the pace at the moment over Max Günther.
Yeah, Günther's gone quicker though.
Yeah.
Günther's just snuck ahead by 29 thousandths of a second. Da Costa 4/10, nearly half a second down on his own teammate. Buemi not in yet, so he's down to 5th. About 5 minutes to go now. I expect to see most of these drivers start to come into the pits and switch to their second set of tyres, which have been sitting in the pits and keeping cool. Well, relatively cool anyway, as cool as it can be in Indonesia, as René Rast has a big slide into turn 2.
Yeah, he corrected it okay, but that will have cost him a little bit of time. Buemi telling his team that the tyres went off pretty early on his fast lap. So clearly the heat, the high temperatures that we have in Jakarta is giving us a different qualifying session to what we've seen quite a lot this year. I've noticed that a lot this year people have done plenty of laps and then done their quickest laps by the end of it. It's not the same here because it's so much heat involved and the tyres get too hot. This is an attacking lap from René Rast, the experienced racer, many-time German touring car champion. But I'm not sure this is quite going to come together for him.
Yeah, he's done a decent, first couple of sectors, but he is half a second down on Günther's pace. I mean, the top 2 are in a league of their own. Rast as a ball to the lap comes into the pits. So, yeah, as I was saying, Ben, the top 2, they really are a cut above everyone else in this group. 3.5 tenths to Evans. That's a significant margin in Formula E terms. We don't normally see such big gaps. And we'll see when we get on the final run whether that starts to close up a bit.
Yeah, and I think particularly, as you say, we can see whether Eda Mutara, who's got up to 6th, despite not doing free practice earlier on today, except for sort of 3/4 of a lap before he did some damage. Norman Nato here, he's now down in 7th place in the Nissan. So whether he can find that little bit of extra as we look down at the car that is fastest right now, the Maserati of Max Günther. He has been impressive all weekend so far, fastest in FP1 and FP2. Is he going to continue this by being fastest in Group B and making sure that he gets into the duels? I would say that's looking very likely he's going to be into the duels. Mitch Evans, though, he's 3rd currently. We saw Sam Bird miss out in Group A, but there is an opportunity for him. And Pascal Wehrlein, this is looking more promising for Pascal Wehrlein. He's been through a bit of a tough time. He was championship leader, obviously, in the earlier part of this season, but in recent times, Wehrlein has not had any very good qualifying sessions, really. The second Berlin race in the wet, he did a decent job. He was in the duels there, but he wasn't in the duels in Monaco, nor was he in the first race in Berlin and Sao Paulo as well. He didn't get into the duels, so it will be a key day for him if Pascal Wehrlein can get into the duel.
So David Beckman at the bottom of the times at the moment. He's the rookie, of course, as I mentioned before. So we'll see what he can do in this final run. But Buemi's gone a bit earlier than other people. He could do 2 laps, I think, if he got on with it. It's going to be a bit tight, but I think most likely everyone's just going to aim for one lap here.
Okay, well, let's see what he can do. He has out-qualified his teammate Nick Cassidy 6-3 this year, and it looks like he's got a good chance perhaps of out-qualifying him again, but let's wait and see. I mean, he's 5th at the moment, which is exactly where Cassidy was in Group A. It'll then depend effectively on who takes pole as to which way they get split at the end of all of this, but that will come up after the duels. But we are getting into the crucial stage now for Group B. We've got a top 4 right now, but that could all shift when they get onto their final flying lap to see who can make it into the top 4 and get into the quarterfinal.
Yeah, they're all messing around for position here, don't they? You know, they want to just be careful that they don't, for example, if you are Gunther or Wehrlein, you don't want to get stuck in the queue behind Beckman, for example, you know, who's 1.5 seconds off the pace at the moment. But Buemi has got nobody in front of him, and he's going to go set the early benchmark. Only 50 seconds to go on the clock as he started, and that means that he will only get one shot at this.
So it's a lovely onboard view, and watch that steering, see how much action there is now. He's trying to keep it smooth. Yeah, gets on the pad, a little bit of correction, a little bit of oversteer. Now this is a fast sweeper coming up.
Yep, bumpy as well. You could hear the car bottoming out as he tries to get the nose in, missed the apex by a little bit there for the left-hander, but managed to get a good line through this windy bit of the track as we come through 8, 9, 10, and now through 11 as the track now starts to speed up and open up, heading towards the turn 13 hairpin.
He's keeping it tidy. This is a good drive from Sebastian Buemi, but is it doing enough? His middle sector's not that great. He hasn't improved on what he'd already done in the middle sector, so actually that section wasn't his best. He's coming into the final turn now.
Yeah, as you said, man, no obvious mistakes, but it just hasn't been quick enough, has it? Middle sector, 1/4 second down. The last sector is a bit of an improvement, but I don't think that's going to be enough. He's
ya, baru saja kita menyaksikan grup B, di mana grup B ini sendiri terdiri dari Pascal Wehrlein, kemudian Mitch Evans, Antonio Felix da Costa, Sebastian Buemi, kemudian Leonhearts, kemudian juga ada Gunther, ada Di Grassi, ada Norbanato, ada Mortara, Mueller, dan juga Beckman. Tetapi yang berhasil lolos ke babak duel adalah Maximilian Gunther, Pascal Wehrlein, kemudian Mitch Reneras, dan juga Mortara. Dan bagaimana Anda melihat hal ini, Bung Wahab?
Ya, sebenarnya di grup B ini lebih seru ya, karena banyak unggulan yang sekarang ada di sini. Cuman menurut saya kejutan nih, Evans nggak lolos, Buemi dan Da Costa nggak lolos. Justru kita lihat Gunther dan Mortara yang tidak diunggulkan bisa lolos ke babak duel.
Benar sekali, dan di grup A sebelumnya juga justru yang diunggulkan sang pemimpin klasemen Nick Cassidy justru juga tidak dapat lolos ke babak duel nih, Bung.
Ya, Robin Franz yang menggunakan engine Mahindra dan tim Mahindra sendiri sebagai prinsipal dan pemakai engine itu sebenarnya tidak diunggulkan di musim ini, tapi inilah kejutan di Jakarta itu terjadi, dan seperti kita lihat track ini kan tidak digunakan untuk balapan di reguler. Artinya pasti yang namanya slip atau permukaan track yang tidak standar itu kemungkinan bisa terjadi di sini, sehingga pembalap yang tidak mengantisipasinya.
Ternyata itu merupakan salah satu tantangan tersendiri bagi para pebalap.
Betul, Van. Lihat ini, mungkin permukaan trek itu coklat ya.
Ya.
Treatment untuk trek yang coklat itu macam-macam, harus disemprot dan kemudian ada di vakum segala macam, dikasih air pun itu belum tentu bisa gitu, hilang. Dan racing line-nya juga belum terbentuk, dan itu licin itu juga merupakan salah satu tantangan buat pembalap. Kita benar-benar melakukan itu di Mandalika pun juga, trek yang coklat itu Indonesia ini sangat-sangat berdebu. Jadi paling enggak harus divakum dan dipakai alat namanya track jet, itu mestinya baru bisa selesai itu kayak gitu-gitu.
Dan sambil sama-sama kita lihat saat ini yang berhasil lolos ke babak duel nantinya nih, Bung Wahab.
Ya, Maserati merupakan tim yang sudah lama sekali nggak ikut balapan, baru tahun ini itu adalah tim yang dulu Rocket William. Sekarang bisa berdua dengan Eduardo Mortara, itu menurut saya kejutan. Renera sebenarnya adalah pembalap bagus, terutama di endurance. Dia merupakan balap unggulan, itu seperti Valentino Rossi-nya di MotoGP itu, René Rast itu kalau di endurance. Nah itu juga dari McLaren, dia bisa masuk babak duel. Ini juga salah satu menurut saya termasuk kejutan yang terjadi di Jakarta E-prix ini.
Oke, baiklah kalau begitu nanti para pemirsa Sport kita masih akan kembali lagi setelah ini untuk menyaksikan babak duel dari grup A dan juga grup B. Tetaplah bersama kami. Ya, terima kasih Anda masih setia bersama kami dalam rangkaian kualifikasi seri 10 Formula E musim ke-9 ini. Dan sambil sama-sama kita lihat di layar kaca, ini adalah cuplikan ulang dari persaingan di grup B untuk memasuki babak duel. Nah, mungkin nih Bung Wahab kita harus memberikan sosialisasi sedikit sambil kita lihat sama-sama ini adalah pebalap Neo McLaren. Dan juga kita membahas mengenai duel ini agak sedikit berbeda dibandingkan event-event motorsport lainnya dalam kualifikasi di Formula E ini.
Ya, memang ada sebelum Formula E menerapkan, ada Extreme E yang menerapkan model duel seperti ini. Artinya ini adalah pola baru dan kebetulan promotor internasional adalah sama grupnya Alejandro Agag dan Alberto Longo ini. Dan sedikit berbeda Formula E dibandingkan musim lalu. Kalau musim lalu setelah babak duel ini, nomor 1 grup A ketemu dengan nomor 4 grup B.
Benar.
Nomor 2 grup A ketemu nomor 3 grup B. Begitu juga sampai nomor 4 grup A ketemu nomor 1 grup B. Tapi musim ini, mulai musim ini nggak dirubah. Nomor 1 peringkat 1 babak duel ketemu dengan peringkat 4 sesama grup. Jadi grup A dan grup B akan bertemu di final duel, memperebutkan position atau 3 poin.
Oke, sebentar. Kalau musim lalu sebelumnya 8 besar kan ibaratnya cross group ya,
Betul.
A ketemu B. Nah, kalau ini pada babak 8 besar di semifinal, sebelum mereka memasuki semifinal, mereka bertemu dengan sesama grup justru.
Sesama grup.
Oke. Mereka bertemu sesama grup masing-masing, kemudian semifinal grup A dan semifinal grup B nantinya akan bertemu di final untuk mendapatkan yang tercepat.
Betul.
Dan kita lihat sama-sama ini adalah yang baru saja dijelaskan oleh Bung Wahab, di mana pada quarter final Fern versus Van Dorn, rekan setim, kemudian Franz versus Dennis, dan juga Ras versus Verlaine, Mortara versus Gunter yang merupakan rekan setim juga. Dan nantinya dari 8 besar ini akan ditemukan 4 besar yang setelah itu mereka akan berduel untuk final untuk meraih pole position.
Iya, dan 3 poin itu pole position di sini.
Oke, mereka jika meraih pole position akan mendapatkan 3 poin.
Betul.
Dan berdasarkan vote, ini adalah 62% dari quarter final 1 antara rekan setim yaitu Fern dan juga Van Dorn ini akan dimenangkan oleh Van Dorn. Tapi nanti kita akan lihat siapa nih ibaratnya, karena Jeff sendiri atau Jean-Eric Fern ini juga merupakan pebalap kaya pengalaman, apalagi di Formula E. Kemarin
saya ketemu Van Dorn, mungkin karena ketemu saya kemarin terus ngobrol, dia punya semangat tersendiri.
Widih. Maksudnya support sistemnya Mas Wahab ya ternyata ya, luar biasa. Baiklah kalau begitu langsung saja kita akan menyaksikan bersama-sama. Ini merupakan duel pertama yang kita saksikan. Selamat menyaksikan.
Their 100th race in Formula E, and funnily enough, actually, DS Automotive, part of Stellantis, as is Maserati, so there is very much a connection in the powertrains between Maserati and DS Penske, and all 4 cars from those 2 teams are out in qualifying. But what we have seen, Karim, before, as they're on their outlap, qualifying is very much one aspect of Formula E. Racing this year is a very different aspect. It's so much, qualifying is about 1 lap, getting the most. They've got this additional power now that we're into quarterfinals. But when we get into the race, it's so much about storing your energy, holding it.
Yeah, exactly. And as I was saying before, the DS Penske cars, and I think similarly for the Maserati cars, when it's cooler and the track temperature is cooler, they do struggle a bit in qualifying to get the tyres where they want. In these baking hot conditions, they're competitive, and they've got to think about that, because obviously the championship goes to a range of circuits, but at the moment what they're thinking about is how to get the tyres in exactly the right temperature for this lap as Jean-Eric Vergne comes through turn 18, and he's going to set the benchmark. As you said, Ben, they've been driving around in 300 kilowatt mode all through the group stages. Now they've got an extra 50 kilowatts, and that means you arrive at that first braking zone just a little bit faster. So picking that first braking point is always a challenge.
It is. Verne's keeping it pretty smooth so far. On the bottom right, you can see how Van Dorn is doing, and we've got a comparison in terms as they go through the various sectors here as to who's up and who's down. So at the moment, it is Verne who has got the very slight advantage. Both are very experienced drivers, of course. Both are champions in Formula E.
Yeah, this is the strongest lineup, really, you'd have to say, on the grid. And thus far, no real obvious mistakes. Unbelievably close on the lap time comparison. Just 38 thousandths between them, but it's swung the other way by 39 thousandths now with Van Dorn ahead. So it is just super close between them.
Well, let's see how this all works out. It is a fantastic fight between Jean-Eric Verne and Stoffel Van Dorn. Nothing really to choose between them, as you can see, 0.076, 0.082. With the moment, it's Verne. So he sets the pace at a 1 minute 8.5. Now it's this final sector for Stoffel Van Dorn catching. He's almost on exactly the same lap time. Which one is going to go through to the semi-final? We'll find out as Stoffel Van Dorn goes over the line. Oh, and it's Verne who just holds on in the end, and look at the smiles there. Oliver Turvey looking pretty happy about that, whoever wins. But Jean-Eric Verne does take the victory in the first of the quarterfinals up against his teammate, but boy, that was close. Very, very rapid.
You'd have to say that they are incredibly evenly matched as a driver lineup in that team, aren't they?
So let's move on to the next head-to-head. It's Robin Freins versus Jake Dennis. And let's see, the predictor vote reckons very much that it's going to be Jake Dennis. Well, I understand that. Robin Freins surprised us all with the pace that he had in the group session. Here he is, on track right now. He's a talented driver, Robin. Whether he's going to have the pace in this car when it counts right now to get this flying single lap. Let's have a look. He goes over the line to start the flying lap now.
Bit of a squirm as he put the power down to start the lap. He's about 3/10 down on Jake Dennis in the group stages of qualifying, so I'd have to say I agree with that predictor vote. But listen, all it would take is one lockup from Jake Dennis, one little bit going offline, and he has got that extra power on this lap now, and all of a sudden Freins could be through. So let's see how the lap unfolds. Freins there, slightly wider line on the way into that left-hander of turn 7, and we've seen from other people, he's clearly confident that the dust has cleared away. We'll see, but at the moment you have to say he's holding his own, Ben, in the comparison, although now just a 10th down.
A bit sideways again there. He had a bit of correction. It is only the second time that Robin's been in the duel this year, and of course that other time was when he took pole in the wet in Berlin. So it's still impressive that he's managed to get in the such hot, dry conditions that car into quarterfinal. But Jake Dennis does seem to have the advantage, and now as we're getting further and further through the lap, you can see that gap is opening up. It looks like you predictors have got it right, because Robin Freins is over the line. He's done a 1:8.9, and we're looking at Jake Dennis going a fair bit quicker than that, just into the final corner.
Yeah, he's just going to close the lap out here now. He's over 3/10 up, nice and tidy at the last corner, bit of understeer on the way in, and just puts the power down. This should be good enough for Jake Dennis.
Across the line he goes, 1 minute 8.477, and Jake is into the semi-finals. He'll be up against Jean-Eric Verne. Jake Dennis has taken the spot, but Robin Freins, I think, has done a great job here, and that still means he's going to be well up on the grid when it comes to the race a little bit later on today. So that's the second of the quarterfinals. The third quarterfinal will be getting underway in just a few moments' time. Then head-to-head between René Rast and Pascal Wehrlein, and the predictor vote saying it's very much about the man who was leading the championship earlier this year, Pascal Wehrlein. But let's not discount René Rast, because again he put in a tremendous lap in his group session. Another very experienced driver, and although Jake Hughes has kind of outdone him a little bit this year, we know René Rast has got what it takes. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, I mean, the McLarens have been good in qualifying. He was a 1/10.5 slower in the group stages when compared to Wehrlein, so we'll see how this unfolds. Pretty tidy into turn 1, now coming through 2 and 3, the long doubled right-hander there. Now the track starts to open up as he comes through 4, bit of bouncing around those bumps there. Pascal Wehrlein now, so he's further behind on track, and he's just coming through turn 1. He uses a slightly wider line through 2 and 3. You can see a bit of dust kicking up there as we join Ras now in the middle sector. Verline quarter of a second up on René Ras. So that is a huge chunk of time just in the first sector of the lap.
Yeah, that's right. Verline's got it together extremely well. René Rast is pushing on, but I'm not sure he's going to have the pace that he needs to have here to beat Pascal Verline. And as you predictors pointed out, it's looking more and more likely that Pascal Verline is going to be the one going through to the next stage, to the semi-final. René Rast is out of the last corner. He's not really made any mistakes, I don't think, but I'm not sure the McLaren has quite the pace that the Porsche has. The Porsche is working well. We saw it so strong in the early part of the season, particularly in race form. Struggled a bit in qualifying form, even when he was scoring lots of points in the races, but it's looking stronger today. There's no doubt across the line. It's a big advantage for Pascal Verline. So Verline is into the second of the semi-finals, and Porsche are happy about that. They've got a good bit of progress, and we know there's good usual race pace in that car as well.
Good job, dude. Good job. That's us through.
René Ras will be disappointed with that, Ben. He's gone slower in the duel with more power than he did in the group stages by a couple of tenths. So you can see Ian James there on screen. You can understand why he doesn't look particularly pleased, because that's a long way off what he should have done in that part of the session.
And now we've got another team battle. Max Günther and Eder Mortara, and the predictor vote going very much for Max Günther, who has been strong all weekend. He's been fastest in every session so far. Is he going to continue that by being fastest against his teammate? I gather actually when we had the teammates out earlier, I've just heard from on radio, Jean-Eric Verne actually apologised to Van Dorn for beating him, but one of them had to win, so you can't do anything about that with your teammate when you're up against them. Only one of you can win. Mortara is the first on track, setting the pace. So remember, he didn't get to do free practice earlier on today properly because he made contact with the wall, and might make him a bit more careful, whereas Günther's been on it all the time.
Yeah, he's unbeaten so far in this weekend. And Mortara, big slide there into 7. So I expect to see that time comparison swing by quite some margin by the time Günther gets to turn 7, as the team watches on. You can see in the bottom right box there as Mortara now heading up towards the turn 13 hairpin. Gets the nose in. He doesn't seem to have lost that much time to go. Oh, no, there it is. The half second. I was sort of waiting, but Günther's clearly just got to turn 7. Right. I wonder if they'll get on the radio to Günther here and just say, look, you're a long way ahead. Just close the lap out, because he could be pretty safe and still end up ahead of Mortara now.
No need to take risk, I don't think. Mortara's done slightly, well, yeah, but we haven't seen Günther into the second part yet. So let's just wait and see. A 1 minute 8.7. I think we're going to see Max Günther going faster than that. There's no doubt about it. As long as he doesn't make a big mistake, come out of the corner, don't hit the wall or the outside. Yeah, no, he's all driving this beautifully under control. It's a 1 minute 8.4, and sure enough, it is Max Günther who has taken it through to the semi-final. He's going to be up against Pascal Verline in the next one, but he's on great form this weekend. There's no doubt about it. Good to see this. His best grid position, second on the grid in Cape Town this year, that is. He's in the past had some good qualifying performances. He never had pole though. He's qualified second on 5 occasions in his Formula E career, but he's never had pole. And I have to say, today could be an opportunity for that.
It's got to be his best chance, hasn't it? I mean, this is what I really like about this qualifying format, is you get that, you know, that result every few minutes there throughout these duels. But also now, Ben, you create this filter where the cream rises. You know, the top 4 that we see in the semis have all done a lap within a 1/10.5 of each other. All 4 cars covered by just, you know, 1.5 tenths, which is brilliant.
Ya, baru saja kita menyaksikan babak quarter final, yaitu tepatnya 8 besar dari pebalap yang tercepat di grup A dan juga grup B, dan kita sudah mendapatkan 4 nama yang memasuki semifinal, yaitu dari semifinal 1 di grup A adalah Jeff atau Jean-Eric Verne versus Jake Dennis, sementara grup B baru saja selesai, yaitu Pascal Verline akan melawan Max Günther. Nanti tentunya saya dan juga Bung Wahab akan membahas mengenai babak semifinal ini yang akan kita saksikan bersama-sama setelah yang berikut ini. Tetaplah bersama kami. Yes, sesaat lagi kita akan memasuki babak semifinal dalam rangkaian kualifikasi seri ke-10 Formula E. Sambil kita lihat sama-sama, ini adalah beberapa kejadian yang terjadi di babak 8 besar atau quarter final. Bung Wahab, menyaksikan babak 8 besar tadi, ada beberapa prediksi yang juga tidak sesuai. Yang tadi sempat kita bahas juga adalah prediksi antara Van Dorn dan Jeff, yang ternyata yang lolos adalah Jeff. Bagaimana Anda melihat keseluruhan babak quarter final tadi, Bung?
Ya, karena menurut saya banyak faktor yang akan menjadikan hasilnya itu akan berbeda. Tapi saya lihat rata-rata pembalap cukup hati-hati ya, terutama karena treknya licin, sehingga dia tidak bisa memacu mobilnya atau kendaraannya, meskipun power outputnya sebenarnya masih maksimal 350 dibandingkan pada saat penyisian tadi hanya 300 kW. Tetapi sebenarnya akhirnya tidak menguntungkan karena treknya kalau saya lihat sih licin ya. Untuk membuktikan sebenarnya harus tanya apa betul treknya licin, teman. Menurut prediksi saya karena trek licin sehingga tidak bisa memacu maksimal, sehingga hasilnya akan terjadi berbeda. Ini kan kita lihat kan yang 100 race tadi yang DS ini memperingati balapan ke-100-nya dia. DS tentu saja ya.
Khusus DS Penske ya?
Ya,
untuk timnya sendiri.
DS kan sebelumnya dengan Ticita. Karena sekarang dia gabung dengan Dragon Penske sekarang.
Jadi
makanya,
DS Penske?
Ya, DS Penske namanya. Tapi ke-100-nya hanya DS-nya ya.
Oke, saya kira karena DS Penske kan terbilang baru ya.
Baru musim ini.
Oke, jadi hanya DS-nya saja.
Ya.
Oh, baik kalau begitu. Dan itu adalah besok balapan ke-100 ya, bukan hari ini untuk DS ya, Bung Wahab.
Ya.
Dan sambil sama-sama ini adalah kita lihat Jake Dennis, di mana Jake Dennis ini akan melakukan semifinal atau babak duel dari grup A bersama dengan Jeff, yaitu Jean-Eric Vergne. Dan kita lihat, saya penasaran nih Bung Wahab, apa sih yang sedang dilakukan oleh tim mekanik tersebut di mobil Jeff tersebut?
Itu panas kan Jakarta cuacanya.
Oh, jadi itu seperti blower
iya,
gitu
blower.
Ya? Oke, tapi membicarakan
sangat panas. Kemarin saya ngobrol sama Nurmanato, gimana Nato di Jakarta. Dia apa itu memuji panasnya Jakarta.
Memuji panasnya Jakarta, benar sekali. Karena kita lihat saat ini penonton saja yang sudah mulai datang pada babak kualifikasi ini juga terlihat memuji panasnya Jakarta. Ini dia beberapa di antara penonton yang saat ini sedang menyaksikan langsung dari Ancol Sirkuit. Yang menarik bagi Anda yang saat ini sedang menyaksikan kita di kualifikasi, boleh sekali langsung datang untuk menyaksikan race-nya, dan akan berlangsung mulai pukul 15 waktu Indonesia Barat nanti dari Ancol Sirkuit, karena banyak sekali hal-hal seru yang bisa didapatkan sebagai penonton karena entertainmentnya sangat luar biasa sekali. Ada fan village, kemudian ada fan festival, ada gaming arena juga untuk kita semua yang datang langsung ke sana, dan kemudian juga ada simulator. Saya selalu ingin mencoba simulator ini Bung Wahab karena sepertinya seru sekali ya.
Ada di gedung ABC Ancol Beachfront itu, di dalam itu kita ada gaming centernya.
Benar, siapa saja boleh mencoba untuk melakukan simulator tersebut. Kemudian kalau Bung Wahab yang diincer adalah entertainmentnya mau nonton DJ katanya. Benar ya Bung Wahab ya?
Betul. Ada Alan Walker ya.
Widih. Tapi memang entertainment di Formula E ini dilengkapi siapa saja, dan juga Formula E ini tuh memang menargetkan banyak penonton-penonton muda, bahkan dari segala usia. Teenager ada, kemudian anak-anak toddler juga ada. Itu dia kenapa juga dalam setiap balapan Formula E ini disediakan kids area khusus untuk anak-anak. Jadi ibaratnya orang tuanya bisa menikmati, anaknya juga bisa menikmati rangkaian Formula E tersebut dengan berbagai fasilitas yang ada di dalamnya ya Bung Wahab ya.
Betul, tidak hanya zilenial tetapi di bawah zilenial juga ikut untuk bisa menikmati. Iya,
dan memang aura family itu sangat terlihat sekali dalam setiap balapan Formula E, tidak hanya di Jakarta ini saja tetapi di berbagai penyelenggaraan Formula E di seri-seri lainnya. Dan ini tadi yang sudah sempat kita bahas, quarter final sudah menemukan hasil di mana yang lolos ke babak semifinal kualifikasi ini adalah Jeff yang akan berhadapan dengan Jake Dennis nantinya. Kemudian juga dari grup B adalah Pascal Wehrlein yang harus berhadapan dengan Maximilian Günther nantinya, yang akan menentukan lagi siapa yang lolos ke babak final dan nantinya akan meraih pole position. Dan kita lihat kembali, ini adalah suasana dari Ancol Sirkuit, dan di samping-samping juga kita tadi sudah melihat ada hiburan lainnya juga seperti roaming entertainment, ada food court juga, lengkap pokoknya ya Bung Wahab ya.
Iya. Dan kan menurut saya ini prediksi saya ya, Jake Dennis dan Pascal Wehrlein akan ketemu di final secara teoritis. di atas kertas apabila tidak ada kesalahan terjadi di atas track. Karena sebenarnya DS Penske ini sebenarnya sekarang menjadi tim kuda hitam saja dan bukan merupakan unggulan. Secara klasmen pun sekarang kita tahu pembalapnya ada di urutan ke-5 dan 4 di atas itu ya pemilik engine Porsche dan pemilik engine Jaguar.
Ya. Dan tadi berarti prediksi Anda adalah Jack Dennis versus Pascal Wehrlein. Tetapi sebelumnya kita lihat dulu apakah Jack Dennis ini lolos dalam semifinal kali ini sambil sama-sama kita menyaksikan. Selamat menyaksikan.
And that is their opportunity maybe to actually start from pole position, but to do that they're going to have to beat this car, and that is the Andretti that Jake Dennis has performed well and is very much a front runner in the championship. They're both in the top 5 in the championship standing, so they are, you know, scoring well throughout the year. Jake Dennis is currently 3rd on 96 points. John-Eric Verne is on 87 points. In between them, funnily enough, in 4th place, Mitch Evans, but Mitch has not made it into this final stage. They are title contenders throughout this season if it continues like this. Up front, Nick Cassidy out of the top group this weekend, not in the duels, but Pascal Wehrlein, as we know, he's going to be in the next semi-final, so there is going to be a big chance there for Pascal. Right, build-up lap and getting ready to go for it flat out.
Here we go, unleashing the power there as he comes out of the final corner. Really nice, tidy exit there. 350 kilowatts being unleashed as he moves over to the left-hand side for the braking zone at turn 1. That's a pretty good run through there, no real corrections, uses lots of road as he comes out, and clearly that dust is moved away, so that seems like a pretty committed effort from Jean-Eric Verne. We'll see as Jake Dennis now riding on board with in the bottom right corner of your screen, and so far at the first corner only 32 thousandths between them.
Yeah, it's usually once we get a little further into the lap that we begin to see some differences. There was quite a lot of work going on the steering wheel there from Jean-Eric Verne.
Yeah, nearly 3 tenths now, so clearly that Andretti car power with the Porsche powertrain working very well for Jake Dennis. He was only 400ths, Ben, faster than Jean-Eric Verne in the quarterfinals, so I don't know if Verne just didn't have the confidence in the car. Again, didn't look like he made a massive mistake, but he just doesn't seem to be attacking as much as Jake Dennis is, and now nearly 4 tenths down on Jeff.
Yeah, I don't think that Jean-Eric Verne's going to manage to take this. We're on board with Jake Dennis now, who's putting together an excellent lap, and this is working very well as long as he can get the final section done, the final quarter. He's neat and tidy out of that, not getting too near the wall, over the line, and Jake Dennis is into the final. Well done to Jake Dennis, into the final. The battle for pole position is very much on for him. The man who was on that front row in Mexico earlier this year, but this is a tremendous achievement once again for Jake Dennis, and it picks up his opportunities to fight for the championship. He had a tough time at one stage.
Yes. Well done, mate. 3.5 tenths once again, mega job, mega.
So he's guaranteed to start on the front row, which is great to get his World Championship battle back on track. Jev was actually 2.5 tenths slower, Ben, in that semi-final than he was in the quarters. So, yeah, definitely a performance that he'd be a little bit disappointed with there.
The next semi-final, Pascal Wehrlein up against Max Günther. Predictor vote saying that Max Günther's more likely. 63% of you are reckoning that he's going to take it. Let's have a look then to see if this works. The Porsche power certainly worked in the Andretti, didn't it? Let's see whether the Porsche power works in the Porsche itself here of Pascal Wehrlein. But we know that Max Günther with the Maserati, here we are on board with Max Günther with the Maserati. This has been rapid in every session so far. It's been fastest in every practice and every qualifying part that we've had up to now. Second semi-final, is he going to be able to do it again? Pascal Wehrlein, very knowledgeable, going well at this stage, not getting too sideways.
Yeah, it's a great camera angle there for Maserati. You could see just the movement on the front suspension as we see Wehrlein coming through turn 13. He's a little bit down, about a tenth of a second down on Günther's time so far, and that has extended to just over a 10. So Günther putting together a very nice lap here once again as we see Wehrlein coming into the final corner. He's now over a quarter of a second down on Gunther's time. So up the line, we're going to get the benchmark here from Pascal Wehrlein. He does a 108.6, which is okay, a little bit slower in fact than what he did in the previous round.
But this is a great chance for Max Günther. This really is. That's quite a big difference. And Max Günther, who has been fastest in every session so far, is over the line, and he's done it on 108.271. Max Günther is into the final. Are we going to see Max take his first ever pole position here today? I tell you what, the way he's putting it together right now, that's got to be a huge opportunity. He's now been quickest in FP1, FP2.
Yes, mate. We drove by almost 4 tenths. Scenario 2 and acknowledge.
And in group qualifying and in his duels so far as well. He's 100% record of being fastest in every session. Well done to Max Günther. And he's got one more battle to go, and that's going to be with Jake Dennis. I think this could be quite a close one.
Yeah, it's going to be pressures on them. But I mean, Gunther's just been on such a run of form. It'll be a massive upset, I think, at this stage if Dennis does beat him in this final, Ben, because you know, Gunther's just been sublime all day long. You know, he's a tenth faster than the time that Dennis did in that semi-final round. So we'll see when we get to the final if he can replicate that pace and whether Dennis can improve.
So the 25-year-old Max Günther, who has got a chance of taking his first pole position. Is it going to work for him? Only 12th in the championship at the moment on 24 points, which just indicates it's been a bit of a tough time. Jake Dennis, who is currently 3rd in the championship on 96 points, getting on the front row is crucial to him. But remember, an extra 3 points goes to whoever gets pole position, and that could be very useful in his championship battle, because that would give him, if he was an extra 3 points, it would put him on to 99. He'd be only 2 points behind Pascal Wehrlein. So pole position here today, worth a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Gunther's not really in the championship fight, but Dennis is firmly in that. So you're absolutely right. An extra 3 points would be a massive, massive bonus for him.
Well, let's wait and see what happens when the two cars do come out for the final part of qualifying and that battle for pole position. And it does, as ever, we've got a real mix of drivers that are going to be up at that top end of the grid, different teams as well, although as I say that, you know, Maserati and DS Penske have qualified well. The question is, are they going to have the race pace? That is sometimes a very different
kita
story.
sudah menemukan 2 nama yang akan masuk ke babak final dalam kualifikasi ini. Agak sedikit meleset tepatnya dari apa yang dikatakan Bung Wahab. Diharapkan bahwa Pascal Wehrlein ada di sana bersama Jake Dennis, tapi ternyata adalah Maximilian Günther yang memang sudah tampil meyakinkan dari free practice 1 dan juga free practice 2 ya Bung Wahab.
Betul, tetapi 50% meleset, tapi saya seneng. Kenapa? Karena dengan adanya hasil seperti ini, Mahindra berarti bisa bicara banyak. Kita ngomong tentang performan ya, di kualifikasi bukan di balapan. Karena kalau di balapan nanti adalah sesuatu yang berbeda karena terlibat yang namanya baterai manajemen sistem. Nah, kalau ini artinya persaingan moga-moga akan terus ada, makin banyak performan yang makin bagus. Kan sebelumnya dipandang sebelah mata powertrain Mahindra itu. Sekarang di Jakarta free practice 1, 2 kualifikasi bisa masuk final saja, menurut saya udah kejutan. Iya, benar sekali. Kadang juga tidak ada yang bisa memprediksi bahwa dia bisa sampai sejauh ini untuk babak kualifikasi ya. Betul. Dan juga yang menarik adalah ya seperti yang tadi dikatakan oleh Bung Wahab bahwa siapa saja di musim ini tuh bisa jadi pemenang. Itu dia yang membuat persaingan dalam Formula E musim ke-9 ini sangat kompetitif sekali dengan Gen 3 ini loh, Bung Wahab. Betul. Pembalap-pembalapnya kan juga kompetitif. Ya. Saya ketemu Maximilian Günther pada saat di Formula 1 di beberapa balapan di Eropa, dan dia meskipun tidak terlalu selalu di top, tapi juga cukup kompetitif. Bahkan ini pembalap termuda, Van, asal tahu umurnya baru 22-23 itulah Pekman. Tingginya berapa, Van? Kurang dari 170, 169. 169 sebenarnya secara regulasi ada yang tertentu nggak sih, minimum atau maksimum untuk pembalap, tepatnya untuk Formula ini sendiri bagi tinggi badan? Enggak sih, tergantung setup mobil aja, karena itu kan yang menentukan. Makanya setiap pembalap begitu dia masuk ke tim baru, dia pasti ada namanya seat fitting.
jadi bisa disesuaikan.
Bisa disesuaikan.
Oh, jadi kalau saya masuk di sana dengan tinggi 158 nggak mesti diganjel pakai bantal, tapi bisa disesuaikan juga ada seat fitting ya.
Ini perlu tahu. Seat fitting itu kenapa sangat perlu, Fan? Kalau pembalap kepengen tahu merasakan roda depan, itu bisa dirasakan dari setir. Tetapi roda belakang dirasakan dari pantat dari seat fitting. Makanya setipis mungkin dia akan nempel ke chassis.
Itu alasannya. Wow, menarik. Saya baru tahu soal informasi ini. Tetapi sekarang kita harus jeda dulu dan kembali setelah yang satu ini. Tetap Anda bersama kami. Ya, sebentar lagi kita akan menyaksikan babak duel antara Jack Dennis versus Maximilian Günther di kualifikasi untuk menentukan siapakah yang akan meraih pole position pada balapan seri ke-10 ini. Dan sekedar informasi saja bahwa balapan seri ke-10 dan seri ke-11 besok meskipun formatnya adalah double header tapi jumlah lapnya berbeda. Hari ini tepatnya di seri ke-10 ini adalah 36 lap untuk balapannya nanti, sedangkan besok adalah 38 lap. Jangan tanya ke saya nih, para pemirsa iNews Sport, kenapa alasannya? Karena saya juga ingin tanya yang ada di sebelah saya, yaitu Bung Wahab. Alasannya apa sih Bung dibedakan mengenai dua seri ini jumlah lapnya?
Ya, salah satu alasannya adalah kalau dengan jumlah lap yang sama, itu strategi tim akan bisa terbaca dari awal. Jadi dengan kapan dia akan ngambil take mode, kapan dia akan push dengan energi aslinya mereka, itu akan bisa terbaca. Kalau 38 itu akan sedikit berbeda strateginya dan harus lebih hemat energi. Dan juga seperti diketahui regulasi ban juga berbeda, Fan. Jadi kalau balapan hanya sekali, regulasinya begini, disediakan 4 buah roda di depan dan 4 buah roda di belakang apabila balapan hanya sekali, tidak double header. Tapi kalau artinya 4 itu adalah 2 set. Tetapi kalau double header disediakan 6 roda depan, 6 roda belakang, artinya 3 set. Jadi secara total balapan dari kemarin, hari ini dan besok hanya disediakan 3 set untuk Jakarta bannya. Jadi mereka harus bisa hemat-hemat ban.
Pinter-pinter ibaratnya ya untuk memanage ban sendiri. Dan juga sempat ada yang membahas beberapa pembalap ini mengenai ban Hankook ini yang katanya tidak seempuk dengan ban Michelin. Tetapi saat ini kita tidak akan membahas hal tersebut karena saat ini babak final untuk duel kualifikasi sudah berjalan. Langsung saja kita akan saksikan bersama-sama.
In the Avalanche Andretti, and in just a few moments time Max Günther will be out there in the Maserati as well. Both have delivered tremendous lap time so far, but which one is going to become a first time pole sitter in Formulae? We're about to find out.
Yeah, that's it. That is the story, isn't it? Whatever happens, we're going to have a new pole sitter in the World Championship, so that is that's great on its own. So the drivers now, they're all thinking about just where their tire temperatures are, where their brake temperatures are. They want to make sure that when they get to that first corner at the end of the long straight, they've got everything in a predictable manner underneath them. So when they go for the brake pedal, the car slows down and gets to that apex in a way that they expect. Because that then gives them the confidence that they've got a car that's working for the rest of the lap. If the car does something strange on the first corner of a qualifying lap, it kind of spooks you. It really hurts your confidence for the rest of the lap.
Well, let's see how it goes then, and we are about to find out as Jake Dennis takes to the line and goes off at top speed down into turn 1. Get the braking done late, but make sure you don't run too wide. First start's all right.
Yeah, it looks pretty good for him there, and got a decent run out of the corner as well, seesawing a little bit at the wheel, but that's as much about the bumps as it is about the grip around the place. So close to the wall as he came out of turn 5. Pretty neat and tidy into 7 and now into 8. 7 thousandths of a second between them in that early part, but Günther now starting to stretch his legs.
So let's see, it's looking good at the moment for Günther. Jake Dennis might not quite make it. He has had pole, sorry, my mistake earlier, in the past, none this year. So he has had some pole positions in the past, but this is still a chance to get his first for this year. But Max Günther's on for his first ever pole position. Jake Dennis is not there though. Look at the gap in time. 0.368 is the gap, and it's not looking as though Jake Dennis is going to get his first pole of this year and back up what he's done in the past, but he's still going to be starting from the front row. All that Max Günther has to do is do the final part of the lap cleanly, smoothly, and it looks as though he is going to take his first ever pole position in Formula E. Over the line he goes, he's done it. Max Günther takes pole position for the Maserati team. Celebrations down there in the pit lane, and well done to Max Günther. He's been on the front row on 5 occasions in the past, but that top spot is now his, and that will be a real key moment.
It's been a great qualifying by him. He's, as I was saying before, it's about chipping away and improving just that little bit. And he's done that. You know, he's at every part of this qualifying.
Come on, mate. That's pole position, 3.5 tenths. Scenario 2 and acknowledge. 2 and acknowledge. Don't take any margin on the in-lap, okay?
And on every step, he's just improved that little bit. You know, he did an 8.40, an 8.27, now an 8.1. And he's just found his rhythm around the circuit in a way that nobody else has.
Yeah, that was superb. So he's kept that 100% record through every single session here today, and yesterday's the first free practice session. And nobody has quite managed to do what he has done.
Thanks for the great work, guys. Let's keep it up.
And yeah, he's very happy with what the team have delivered. Whether they're going to have that race pace, we will find out a little bit later on today. But he will be starting from the top spot, and he has that in his credit now. Very well deserved. And Jake Dennis, I think, will still be knowing that the chance for him to score more points is going to be very, very good as well. Edo Mutara there, no doubt,
selamat kami
celebrating with the
ucapkan
team.
untuk Maximilian Günther yang ternyata dapat meraih pole position dalam rangkaian di seri ke-10 yang nanti kita akan menyaksikan balapannya. Komentar Anda, Bung Wahab?
Ya, ini merupakan kejutan ya, terus terang saya juga apa itu namanya, sedikit tidak bisa berkata-kata. Kok bisa engine Porsche dan engine Jaguar kalah? Tapi saya pikir kalau tadi saya komen banyak di track yang licin, saya pikir ini tidak. Makanya kita harus cari tahu. Saya mungkin akan segera cari tahu apa yang terjadi di mereka. Tapi menurut saya ini adalah sebuah kejutan. Benar, Maximilian Günther adalah pembalap berpengalaman. Jack Dennis mungkin tidak, pengalamannya tidak lama atau sebanyak Maximilian Günther. Ban Hankook tentu saja masih jadi catatan tadi, seperti kita bicarakan tadi. Tetap saja kenapa kok bannya itu keras, tapi dia pasti akan lebih safety dalam memasang komponnya atau mempertaruhkan komponnya. Tapi pasti apa yang terjadi di musim ini akan menjadi perbaikan. Tapi balik lagi terhadap hasil final ini, saya pikir ini sebuah kejutan dan ini cukup menarik menurut saya.
Ya, baik, terima kasih sekali Bung Wahab atas komentarnya. Tetapi waktu kita sudah habis. Selamat sekali lagi untuk Maximilian Günther yang berhasil meraih pole position pertamanya sejak keikutsertaannya di Formula E. Sekarang saatnya saya Feni Agik, Bung Muhammad Wahab dan seluruh kerabat kerja yang bertugas untuk pamit undur diri. Sampai jumpa di kualifikasi Formula E seri ke-11 besok pukul 10.30 waktu Indonesia Barat.